Hello, good people of YouTube. Sealord here. And briefly here at the start, I'm going to bring up something that I talked about in another video a few weeks ago, and that's the group of players that always shout, the game's dying because the devs are doing XYZ, even though the devs may really just be doing XYZ because it's a standard thing in most games nowadays, but because it's World of Warships and there's a group of players that always seems to just be like rooting for the death of the game, they always shout that about every little change. It can be seriously the most minute change, like the shout that the game is dying. And it cheapens that worry and that expression that the game is dying, because it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. You say it too many times, people stop listening to you, and the people that have probably stopped listening to good chunk of the player base seems to be the devs in this most recent announcement. Now, is it because of those players like to shout that the game is dying, yada yada? I don't know. But it's either that or they're just being willfully ignorant and don't really care about one of the most dedicated parts of the player base. Now, the players that this change affects, they are some of the most dedicated players in this game. They've grounded up probably most of the tier 10s in this game. They're willing to grind through entire lines in very short periods of time. They've gotten to the point where they're at their end game. And what their end game is the competitive scene in this game. Yes, we're talking about clan battles, and I know there's a very large portion of the player base that does not play clan battles, but if this is how the devs are treating that most dedicated part of the player base, what's this saying about the future treatment of the general player base at large? Now, it could be that they don't care about really this dedicated part of the player base because it is a shrinking part of the player base. And when people talk about, the player base declining or shrinking, overall, I wouldn't say it is, but I would most definitely say the competitive part of this game is shrinking. And these are the players that know the game inside and out. They know wargaming inside and out, and they're there for, one way or another, it benefits the player base as a whole, because they can either share their knowledge about the game, they can help call out wargaming on their nonsense, they can notice that, this slight Sigma change, or, hey, is this ship really supposed to have this slight nerf about it or something like that? They can notice those small changes, or they're the ones that go digging around in the files and stuff for things like that. And many a fault with this game has been found out because of players like that. And that's just one aspect about it too. Of course, they're the ones that are playing the game 24/7. They're the reasons why there's people on probably at like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. Those dedicated players. And wargaming just seems, again, either ignorant or hell-bent on killing these players off. And this upcoming season of clan battles, oh man. So what was announced is the current bans or restrictions, I should say, for the upcoming clan battles season, which is season 22. Now, clan battles for the past couple of seasons, with the exception of the last one, has been pretty frustrating. And there were some very frustrating aspects of the last season, although the very in-depth restriction system that they had in place last time was a pretty welcome change. And they even had, in seasons past, a couple of, loosey-goosey type couple of weeks where it's like, oh yeah, there's no restrictions in battleships. You want to take, 7 BBs into the game? Go for it. Have some fun, There was that aspect too, which is pretty fun. But yeah, last season, if you didn't partake in last season, they had a very, very in-depth restriction system last season, which, again, brought about some interesting tactics, and one of the most, which is very weird that this ship was even viable at all, let alone a key to success in last season, was the frickin' Schroeder monkey push that happened last season, and that was some good fun. But anyway, this season, super ships are back, which is something that, of course, many competitive players don't like. Why? Because super ships are literally pay to win. You pay an exorbitant amount of credits to get these ships. You pay very high maintenance rates with credits to take these ships into battle. And they have some, overpowered aspect to them, be it something like the Conde's reload booster or the Satsuma with its 8 20-inch guns with a, built-in Deadeye button. So, yeah, they're intrinsically broken ships that you pay an exorbitant amount of credits in to have an unfair advantage in, and now you're putting them in one of the most competitive mode in game. And how do I know that these aren't popular decisions? Well, if you've played clan battles, once you get out of Gale and start getting up into the higher leagues like Storm, Typhoon, and Hurricane, when you get up into like higher Storm, Edge of Typhoon, you start running into the same 3 or 4 clans every night. Over and over and over again. And then when you get into like Typhoon and on up, it's really like literally 2 teams maybe every night, over and over and over again. Especially again, like when you get to Hurricane, it's literally 2 teams over and over and over again. So that's not a sign of a healthy mode. If you play random battles, you're not going to be running into, maybe if, you're playing a submarine and, you and the other submarine are the only 2 guys in queue. Yeah, you two might run into each other a couple of times after that, but you rarely have more than maybe 1 or 2 of the same guys on the other side when you go into the next match. Unless, again, you both are playing some ship that with a limited account and matchmaking like CVs. Doesn't really happen in random battles unless you're playing, super early in the morning or super late at night. But in clan battles, it's the same clans over and over and over again that you keep running into. 2 or 3 years ago, not really. You wouldn't run into the same clan more than maybe if you're playing throughout the entire week, maybe once or twice. But now it's multiple times a night. And again, these are some of the most dedicated players that are just saying, nope, I've had enough now. So, have they announced that's probably going to lead to a pretty miserable next season? Well, so here are the restrictions. This is a dev blog that was put out today, the day of recording. And the restrictions are that there are no CVs or submarines, which that's a good thing because CVs are designed to be a class of 1 in a 12v12 game, so putting them in a 7v7 game, it's not really going to be balanced. Submarines, too, they're designed to be a class of 1 or 2 in a 12v12 mode. No more than 1 super ship per team. No more than 1 battleship per team. There will also be limited restrictions on certain ships from the start of the season. Limited the number of Republic, Preußen, Ragnar, Gdansk, Petropavlovsk, Napoli, and Marseille. One team may not have more than 1 of these ships in total, so you can only have 1 of those ships in your lineup. Limited the number of Kleber and Marceau. One team may not have more than 2 of these ships in total. Ohio, Kremlin, St. Vincent, Smallland, and Conde are not allowed. So thank God they got something right, and Conde's not allowed. I don't know why Kleber and Marceau are limited to 1. Well, 2. You have 2 Klebers, 2 Marceaus, or 1 Kleber and 1 Marceau. I don't know why they're allowing those guys at all. They're always a no-brainer pick at the start of the season. Should ban them outright and let us get some other DDs in there. And of course, if you have Black Friday versions of any of those ships, they're not allowed either. If they even have black versions of those ships, I think there's a Napoli B, but yeah, that's about it. So you can have a super ship. You can take any of the plentiful super ships that are around. Basically, everyone's going to be taking the Olchakov because Kremlin's not allowed, but the bigger Kremlin is for some reason. I don't know why. They limited the other 457 battleships with the Ohio, the Kremlin, and the St. Vincent. Although the Vermont is allowed, but I mean that's an interesting pick. You take that to clan battles, a very slow, easily farmable battleship that can't really respond to changes because in a 1 battleship season, typically the battleship is kind of like a floater. They hang around in the middle, or they mirror what the other team's battleship does. But if you're in a Vermont that's slower than a continent, it's very hard to mirror the other team's battleship and such. So, yeah. Super ship season with the hope that at least we were hoping for is that if you take a super ship, you can only take 1 battleship, right? So like you can have a battleship and a super ship, or you can have 2 battleships to counter said super ship, you know? Because the super ships, again, they're a miserable experience to fight against in a competitive setting. Yes, I know in random battles they may not seem that daunting, but when you have a team on voice comms and someone's in a super ship, it's pretty miserable because clan battles, you already can't make too many mistakes in clan battles, but with like the Conde last time that it was allowed, it was miserable because you slip up one time, and with the Conde's reload booster, well, not the reload booster, the alternative firing mode, it would just nuke most cruisers in one burst, shall we say, from its autoloader. And then you have the reload booster on there, which means the 45-second reload after the autoloader gets turned into a 20-something second reload. So now you can do it again in a pretty quick fashion. But I'm glad they did at least ban that outright. So yeah, it's looking like it's going to be another pretty miserable season. It's tier 10 again. Again, last season when you can mix, tier 8 and 9 together, that was pretty fun. It was different. It led to, again, like I said, some pretty interesting strategies and some, dare I say, fun that was had. But it's looking like it's going to be another slog of a season. I know there's several already that have made their disdain about this season known. And yeah, again, this is the most dedicated portion of the player base that's just getting another miserable clan battle season. At least it looks like it's going to be. And of course, this is all just initial. It could change. They could go into a more in-depth system like last time. It's interesting they're not limiting the hybrids this time. The Louisianas, it's not like you can take a Louisiana, then you can't take a super ship, which, the insta and perma spotting that the Louisiana can provide seems to be pretty valuable. But instead of giving up your battleship slot, you can take the Super Petro, which is incredibly tanky, like a battleship, and you can still take those two together. So, like, you're kind of making up for your lack of tankiness with the Louisiana with the Super Petro. So, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they really went in-depth as they did last season, or maybe last season was just a trial run of that in-depth system. Hopefully we'll see it return in the future. I was hoping we were going to see it again this season. So, yeah. Next season clan battles looking like it's going to be something alright. And it doesn't look like it's going to be very great. But, yeah. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment. We're on our way to 50,000 subscribers. We are very close to that goal thanks to you guys. When we get there, we are going to be doing a 50K giveaway like we do for any of our milestones. So make sure you stick around for that. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, let me know what you guys think about this season and upcoming season clan battles in the comments. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.